Have you ever felt like your own family was holding you hostage, using your loyalty as a chain to keep you from chasing your own dreams? I'm talking about the kind of betrayal that cuts deep, where the person who's supposed to lift you up instead drags you down, expecting you to sacrifice everything for their sake. That's exactly what happened when my dad forced me to work for his failing hardware business for free, year after year, while I watched my own aspirations slip through my fingers like sand. This isn't just a story about unpaid labor. It's a raw, emotional roller coaster of resentment, love, and the desperate fight for freedom. Stick with me as I unpack the pain of being trapped by my dad's expectations, the memories of a bond one thought was unbreakable, and the shocking truth I uncovered about why he leaned on me so hard. I'm still figuring out how to balance the love I have for him with the need to live my own life, and I need your help to decide what's next. Let's dive into one of the toughest battles I've ever fought, my fight for independence. My name's Caleb, and I'm 32 now, living in a small rented house on the outskirts of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the flat, sprawling plains and the distant hum of Route 66 feel like a fitting backdrop to the wide-open uncertainty I've been grappling with for years. This story stretches from 2014 to 2023, centered on the grueling years I spent working for my dad, Richard, in his struggling hardware store, starting when I was just 19 and fresh out of high school. The emotional conflict tearing me apart is the clash between the deep-rooted love and respect I've always had for my dad, who taught me the value of hard work, and the burning resentment that grew as he demanded I pour my life into his business without pay, stifling my own dreams of becoming a mechanic and building a life on my terms. The unexpected twist came in 2020 when I discovered that his insistence on keeping me close wasn't just about cheap labor. It was rooted in a hidden fear of losing the only family he had left after my mom passed away, a revelation that left me torn between anger and a reluctant empathy. This all unfolds in Tulsa, a city of gritty charm and endless horizons, where the dusty streets and oil-town history have shaped both my struggles and my slow journey toward freedom. Growing up in Tulsa, my dad was my hero, the kind of man who could fix anything with a wrench and a stubborn will, running his small hardware store, Richard's Tools and More, in a weathered strip mall off East 11th Street. I spent my childhood trailing him through the aisles, the smell of metal and sawdust clinging to my clothes, learning the difference between a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver before I could even spell my name right. Mom was around back then, a warm presence who'd bake pecan pies for the store's regulars. But after she passed from cancer when I was 12, in 2003, it was just me and Dad, two stubborn souls trying to fill the gaping hole she left. He'd take me to watch the Tulsa Drillers play baseball on humid summer nights, the crack of bats and the roar of the crowd a rare escape, and I'd see the weight lift off his shoulders for a few hours. Now, as I sit on my sagging porch with the Oklahoma wind kicking up dust, I can't help but wonder how that man who'd once been my biggest inspiration became the anchor I had to cut loose. The trouble started in 2014, a sweltering Tulsa summer when I graduated high school with no clear plan but a burning itch to work with cars, dreaming of becoming a mechanic and maybe opening my own garage one day. I'd spend hours tinkering with an old Chevy pickup in our driveway, the radio blasting classic rock over the clank of tools, picturing a future where I'd be my own boss. Dad, though, had other ideas. His store was bleeding money. Big box chains like Home Depot were eating small businesses alive. And he sat me down one evening in the cluttered back office, the fan humming as sweat beaded on my neck, telling me he needed help full-time. I figured it'd be temporary, a way to pitch in for family, so I agreed, not realizing I'd just signed away years of my life. That first day, stocking shelves with bolts and nails, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, I felt a flicker of pride in helping him, but it didn't take long for that to sour. By 2015, I was working 50-hour weeks with no paycheck, just room and board at Dad's house, while my friends were off at college or starting real jobs. Tulsa's endless heat that year felt like it was baking my frustration into my bones as I hauled heavy boxes, dealt with cranky customers, and watched Dad sink deeper into debt, refusing to change a thing about how he ran the place. I'd lie awake at night in my childhood bedroom, the walls still plastered with car posters, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily, dreaming of trade school, but knowing I couldn't afford it when every minute was tied to the store. I started resenting the jingle of the bell over the door, each customer a reminder of the life I wasn't living. I'd drive past auto shops on my rare breaks, the smell of oil and rubber taunting me through the window, wondering if I'd ever get out from under Dad's thumb. The weight of being unpaid labor grew heavier through 2016 as Tulsa's economy stuttered and the store's shelves got barer, mirroring the emptiness I felt inside. I'd spend long days alone in the back, inventorying rusted tools, my hands calloused and my spirit bruised, while Dad barked orders without a hint of thanks. I started sneaking away to a local diner on slow afternoons, nursing a cheap coffee under the neon sign, scribbling half-baked plans to escape in a notebook. Maybe save up in secret, maybe just walk out. But guilt always dragged me back. He was my dad, after all, the guy who'd bandaged my skinned knees and taught me to throw a punch, and I couldn't shake the memory of him breaking down at Mom's funeral, clutching my hand like I was his lifeline. Still, every unpaid hour stoked a quiet rage, a fire I didn't know how to put out without burning us both. By 2017, I was 22 and felt like I'd aged a decade. My dreams of being a mechanic buried under stacks of unpaid invoices and Dad's endless complaints about the business coming first. Tulsa's brutal winters that year matched my mood, the icy wind cutting through me as I shoveled snow from the store's lot, wondering how I'd let this become my life. I'd see old high school buddies at gas stations or bars, their stories of new jobs or road trips a punch to the gut, while I mumbled excuses about helping family, too ashamed to admit I was stuck. Late at night, I'd sit in the store after closing, the silence heavy, running my fingers over a wrench and imagining a garage of my own, but the weight of Dad's expectations and my fear of letting him down kept me chained. I started questioning if I even deserved more, or if this was just my lot, a thought that scared me more than the work itself. The breaking point crept closer in 2018, during a blistering Tulsa summer when the store hit rock bottom, barely scraping by, and Dad's temper flared hotter than the asphalt outside. I'd work 12-hour shifts, sweat soaking my shirt, while he grumbled about my attitude, as if I should be grateful for the privilege of slaving away for nothing. One evening, after a customer chewed me out over a delayed order, I snapped, slamming a box of screws down in the back room, the crash echoing as years of frustration boiled over. I wanted to storm out, to tell Dad I was done, but the image of him alone, the store shuttered, stopped me cold. I drove aimlessly that night, past the Arkansas River, the water glinting under streetlights, wrestling with whether I owed him my future or if I owed myself a chance to live. Tulsa's sprawling quiet felt like it was waiting for me to decide, but I didn't have the guts yet. Through 2019, the resentment hardened into something I couldn't ignore, even as Tulsa's familiar landmarks, the Golden Driller statue, the old diners, tried to ground me in a past I still clung to. I started stashing away small tips from odd jobs I'd sneak on the side, a secret fund in a tin under my bed, each dollar a tiny rebellion against Dad's control. I'd lie awake, the cicadas buzzing outside, planning to enroll in a mechanics program at a local tech school, though the guilt of leaving him gnawed at me. What if the store collapsed without me? I'd walk through Kane's ballroom on rare nights off, the music thumping, wishing I could dance away the weight of family duty, but every step back to Dad's house felt heavier. I was torn between the boy who'd idolized him and the man who was suffocating under his shadow, a split I didn't know how to mend. The unexpected twist hit me in early 2020, during the eerie quiet of Tulsa's lockdown, when the world slowed and I finally got a glimpse behind Dad's iron wall. I was cleaning out the store's cluttered office one gray afternoon, the city outside hushed, when I stumbled on an old photo of him and Mom tucked in a drawer, along with a stack of unpaid medical bills from her last years. Later that week, over a tense dinner of takeout in his dim kitchen, I pressed him about why he'd pushed me so hard, and after a long silence, he admitted something I never expected. He wasn't just desperate to save the store. He was terrified of losing me like he'd lost her, thinking if I left for my own life, he'd be truly alone. I sat there, the taste of cheap pizza turning sour, a storm of emotions crashing over me. Anger that he'd trapped me out of fear, but also a gut-wrenching sadness for the loneliness he'd hidden. Tulsa's empty streets outside felt like they mirrored the hollow space between us, leaving me more lost than ever. That revelation haunted me through the rest of 2020, as I wrestled with this new lens on Dad's actions while Tulsa stayed locked down, giving me too much time to think in the store's empty aisles. I'd sweep the floors, the broom scraped the only sound, questioning if I'd been too harsh in my resentment, or if his fear justified the years he'd stolen from me. I started taking long drives on deserted highways, the Oklahoma plains stretching endlessly, trying to sort through the love I still felt with the hurt that hadn't faded. I'd park by the river, watching the sluggish current, wondering if I could forgive him without forgetting, or if understanding his pain meant I had to keep sacrificing mine. The city's stillness felt like a challenge, pushing me to decide if this changed everything, or if my need for freedom still burned brighter. By 2021, I knew I couldn't stay in that limbo forever, and with Tulsa slowly reopening, I made my first real move toward independence, enrolling in a part-time mechanics course at a community college, paying with my secret stash while still working at the store to keep Dad off my back. I'd spend early mornings in class, the smell of engine grease a balm to my soul, learning to rebuild carburetors while dreaming of a garage with my name on it. But every evening, returning to the store's flickering lights, I felt the tug of guilt, Dad's tired eyes, the way he'd linger near me like he sensed I was slipping away. I'd work on homework late at night in my room, the glow of my laptop casting shadows, torn between the thrill of carving my own path and the fear of what leaving would do to him. Tulsa's reawakening, food trucks returning, local fairs, mirrored my own slow rise, though the weight of family ties kept pulling me down. The emotional toll of balancing this double life grew through 2021 as I pushed myself harder in school, acing tests, and landing a small paid internship at a local auto shop, my first taste of earning for my passion. Tulsa's humid fall felt like it was pressing down on me as I'd clock out of Dad's store, race to the shop, and work on busted transmissions, the roar of engines drowning out my doubts for a few hours. But every quiet moment, driving home under a crimson sunset, passing the store's faded sign, brought back the ache of his confession, wondering if I was betraying him by chasing this. I started avoiding deep talks with him, keeping things surface level over dinner, though his lingering glances told me he knew something was shifting. I questioned if I was strong enough to break free without breaking him, a riddle I couldn't solve even as my skills grew. By 2022, I'd finished the mechanics course with a certification, a quiet victory I celebrated alone with a beer at a dive bar near downtown Tulsa, the neon lights buzzing as I toasted to a future I could almost touch. I ramped up hours at the auto shop, finally earning steady pay, and moved into a cheap rental house, my first real step out of Dad's shadow, though the move was bittersweet. I'd sit on my creaky porch, the Oklahoma wind warm, staring at unpacked boxes, feeling both liberated and unmoored without the store as my daily cage. I didn't tell Dad outright about cutting back hours at first, dreading his reaction, though the distance between us grew with every day I spent building my own life. Tulsa's wide skies felt like they were daring me to keep going, though a piece of me still heard the jingle of that store bell in my sleep, a ghost I couldn't shake. The strain of this half-hidden independence lingered into late 2022, as I threw myself into work at the shop, saving for tools and dreaming of a small garage lease, though every dollar felt like a wedge between me and Dad. Tulsa's winter was mild that year, but my mood stayed cold as I dodged his calls about needing help at the store, guilt gnawing at me even as I rebuilt engines with a pride I'd never felt stocking shelves. I drive past the store sometimes, seeing him through the window, hunched over the counter alone, and feel a pang of the old loyalty, wondering if I'd abandoned him when he needed me most. I started hanging out at local car shows on weekends, the rumble of hot rods a new kind of family, though every laugh with new friends reminded me of the one I'd left behind. I was torn between the life I was building and the one I'd walked away from, a split that kept me up at night. Reflecting on the journey through early 2023, I spent a lot of time at Keystone Lake, just outside Tulsa, the water's calm a contrast to the storm still inside me, thinking about how Dad's demands had nearly crushed my spirit and how his fear had reshaped my anger into something more complicated. I'd recall the early days at the store, a kid eager to help, now shadowed by years of resentment, wondering if I'd been too quick to judge his motives before I knew the full story. I thought about Mom's absence, how it had broken us both in different ways, questioning if I'd ignored his pain in my rush to escape. I'd sit on the lake's shore, skipping stones, asking myself if I'd overreacted to his control or if I'd waited too long to claim my own life. Tulsa's rugged charm, oil rigs on the horizon, country tunes on the radio, felt like a nudge to resolve this, though I didn't know how. By mid-2023, my work at the auto shop had turned into a full-time gig, with a small but growing client list, and I'd even started mentoring a younger apprentice, a way to pay forward the chance I'd fought for, though Dad's shadow still loomed. I celebrated small wins, fixing a vintage Mustang, renting a tiny workshop space, though I did it without him, a void I felt even as I smiled at my progress. I started visiting old haunts like the Tulsa State Fair, the smell of funnel cake stirring memories of going with Dad as a kid, wondering if he'd heard about my new life, or if he was too buried in the store to care. Tulsa's endless summer heat felt like it was testing my resolve, pushing me to decide if I'd reach out, or if I'd keep building this life on my own terms, no matter the cost. The emotional weight of this unresolved rift persisted. Even as my career took off, each memory of those unpaid years a reminder of how much I'd given up and how much I still cared about the man who demanded it. I'd spend late nights in my workshop, the hum of a fan mixing with crickets outside, wondering if I'd let this distance grow too wide, or if it was the only way I'd found myself. I started avoiding the strip mall where the store sat, unable to face that faded sign without feeling the old resentment flare, though every detour made me question if I was running from him or from my own guilt. I'd take long rides on back roads, the Oklahoma dust trailing behind me, asking if I'd been too hard on him after learning his truth, or if some hurts were just too heavy to lift. Reflecting on my past became a constant loop through the fall of 2023, especially on quiet evenings when I'd sit in my workshop, tools scattered, thinking about the dad who'd once been my whole world. I'd recall the time we rebuilt a shed together after a storm, his gruff laugh as we hammered away, a memory now tainted by the years I felt used. I thought about his small gestures, leaving coffee on the counter during late store nights, now warped by time, wondering if he'd been told I'd moved on, or if he missed me as much as I sometimes missed him. I'd walk through Woodward Park, the leaves turning gold, questioning if I'd ignored his loneliness back then, or if I'd been too consumed by my own dreams to see it. Tulsa's heartbeat, trucks rumbling, locals chatting, challenged me to decide if I could rebuild with him, or if some bridges stayed burned. Now, as I sit here in my little house, the Oklahoma night settling in with a chorus of crickets, the faint glow of Tulsa's skyline in the distance, I'm still wrestling with where to go from here. My life feels like it's finally mine, with a job I love and a future I'm building bolt by bolt. But there's an empty spot where Dad should be, a gap I don't know how to fill. There are moments when I think about swinging by the store, maybe showing him a photo of a car I restored, seeing if there's still a spark of the bond we had. Then there's the part of me that wants to keep this independence pure, to focus on opening that garage I've dreamed of since I was a kid, without the weight of his expectations dragging me back. So, I'm turning to you, my listeners, because I'm at a fork in the road and I can't figure out which path to take on my own. Do I reach out to Dad, try to rebuild something from the ashes of all that resentment, and risk falling back into the same old patterns of guilt and obligation? Or do I keep my distance, protect this hard-won freedom, and focus on building my garage, even if it means letting go of the family I've got left? I've fought so hard to stand on my own 2 feet, but there's a part of me that still hears his voice, sees his tired face behind that counter, and wonders if I'm leaving him to face his loneliness alone, just like he feared. I think about the last time I saw him, a few months back, when I dropped off some old tools I didn't need anymore. It was a quick stop at the store, the bell jingling like a memory I couldn't escape. He looked older, grayer, his hands slower as he sorted through receipts at the counter. He didn't say much, just nodded and muttered a thanks, but his eyes lingered on me a little too long, like he was searching for something I wasn't ready to give. I left feeling heavier than when I'd walked in, the Tulsa sun doing nothing to warm the chill in my chest. That moment keeps replaying in my head, making me question if I've been too stubborn or if I'm just scared to open a door I might not be able to close again. There's so much I haven't said to him, about the anger that built up over those unpaid years, about how I felt like I was drowning under his needs, but also about how I get it now, at least a little, why he held on so tight after Mom was gone. I wonder if he'd even listen, or if he's too stuck in his own pride to hear me out. And then there's the flip side. Every day I spend away from the store, I'm adding bricks to the wall of my own life. My workshop, my clients, my dreams coming true one oil change at a time. I've got a chance to lease a small garage space next month, a real shot at making Caleb's auto repair more than just a fantasy scratched in a notebook. But can I really pour everything into that if I'm still tangled up in the past? Tulsa feels like it's watching me decide, with its wide, dusty streets and the hum of life moving on whether I'm ready or not. I drive past places that hold pieces of us. Philbrook Museum, where we'd go on rare days off, the old diner where we'd grab burgers after closing up shop, and I can't help but feel like I'm carrying him with me, even when I don't want to. I've got this ache to know if he's okay, if the store's still limping along, or if he's finally let it go. But I'm also terrified that reaching out means I'll lose the ground I've gained, that I'll get sucked back into being the son who sacrifices everything for family, instead of the man who builds something for himself. So, I'm laying it all out here, raw and real, because I trust you guys to see things I might be too close to figure out. Should I call him, show up at the store, and try to talk through the mess of the last decade, hoping we can find some kind of middle ground? Maybe start small, just a coffee or a quick catch-up, to see if there's still a father and son under all the hurt? Or should I keep my focus on the garage, on the life I've clawed my way toward, and accept that sometimes loving someone means letting them go, even if it stings? I've spent so long fighting for my independence, but I don't know if I've got the strength to fight for us too, or if I even should. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if this story hit home, and subscribe if you want to follow how this all shakes out. I'm reading every single piece of advice because right now, I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something big and I don't know which way to jump. Thanks for listening to my mess, for being here through the ups and downs of this crazy ride. I'll catch you in the next video, hopefully with some clarity, or at least a step forward. Until then, take care, and let me know, what would you do if you were me?